I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barnes. Today, we're going to be talking about, I'm going to show you a response video that Cam Higby made to Dean Withers on TikTok. Dean has a large account. He's been on like Jubilee and other things a lot, podcast. He's, one of like the young Democrat golden boys. And so there's a lot of different talking points going out about the big, beautiful bill and talking about, oh, they're going to cut all this Medicaid and stuff. And so it into other things. So Cam like addresses his video, but just want to, I guess, ask some common sense questions along the way for folks. And I guess the moderates, I don't know how far the Democrats have gone, if they're beyond like understanding like just common sense questions like, okay, well, why do you want people who could work and won't work to just, I don't know, have all the government subsidies and suck them up from people who really need it? And how much debt does our country need to go into? And et cetera, et cetera. Just things like that. I also want to show you guys this video that I saw from a British singer, Lily Allen. I don't think I know who that is. But I saw this clip of her going around about she can't remember how many abortions she's had. And it's just a horrific video. And then the person she's talking to has had about as many abortions as she's had. So it's just a death culture, man. So I just want to highlight that. Also, Ben and Jerry's, they make good ice cream, but man, they're not great people who run the company. And so there was a company that decided to cut off millions of funding over Ben and Jerry's donations to a pro-Palestinian group. So yeah, all kinds of things going on today. Before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website. You guys can check out articles and videos and so on. If you like what I do here, you guys can consider leaving a donation on the site because it does cost a stream, run the site, all the guests, those guys get support. I very much appreciate you guys as well. You guys can also check out different merchants available on the site as well. We have different t-shirts like, well, this says a list of all this different stuff that Trump did, like gas under $2, no new wars, etc. And all he got was this lousy t-shirt. I made that in the first term, but still a good t-shirt. We got the goat hoodie, goat t-shirt. I'm not the victim you're looking for. I also got different books you guys can check out. There's a link in the description. It'll take you to the Amazon page where you guys can check out some of my books as well. So I encourage you guys to check those out. I have nonfiction books like Say Your Fear, but I also have, books like Super Kid and, all kinds of different stuff. So you guys can check out my stuff. I hope you enjoy it. Tomorrow is the 4th of July. So I think I'm going to take the holiday. I don't usually take the holiday, but I think I'll just take the holiday. I'm not totally sure what I'll do with it. The news could be so irresistible and juicy that maybe I'll just pop over and, go ahead and spill the tea. But as of now, I think I'll just kind of enjoy the 4th of July. I love the United States of America. It's an amazing country. I saw a very funny video from Jolly, and there's these two British guys, and they'll go and they'll try American stuff, and there's a group of people who they'll have try like American fast food and other things like that. And so they were asking high schoolers in Britain, like, what is the 4th of July to Americans? And I think a lot of them that they showed said Independence Day, and they're like, well, independence from what? And a lot of them didn't know. And then one kid was like, independence from Spain. And I'm like, Spain? I'm like, How do y'all not know it's y'all? And some people in the comments were like, and they say our education system is bad. And but some folks were like, well, they have a longer history, and there's a lot of countries that had Independence Days from the UK. So we're just one of the many. But I just thought that was wild. I'm like, Spain, but you know, they're all the way across the other side of the world. But it's funny because if you go on TikTok, you just get the impression that they be talking about us, the world be talking about us all the time. All the time. They're obsessed with our food and our culture, and then they'll pretend like they're not. But we're always in their mouth. Always in their mouth. But anyway, yes, 4th of July. Amazing holiday. I'm so glad. To me, you guys can correct me if you feel differently, but there was a really big push a couple years ago with Juneteenth on the rise, and this like anti-Americanism sort of mentality on the left popping up. And people were trying to make Juneteenth like that was going to be the 4th of July, and people were just going to reject, our Independence Day because they're ashamed of our nation and stuff. And I don't feel like that ever really manifests. Like maybe the intention was really felt a couple of years ago, but now I just feel like people enjoy having an extra day to barbecue. They still go out at the 4th of July and enjoy their fireworks and so on. So um I'm glad that what they were trying to obviously do with the culture shift has not been successful, and we've seen that on many fronts. I talked the other day about how UPenn had to issue apologies, or they agreed to issue apologies to the biological women who were harmed for racing with William Thomas, who's going by Leah Thomas. And they stripped him of his records, and anyone who he beat or whatever, they, got bumped up in the scores and trophies or whatever. So I was glad to hear that. I saw a video from the girl who I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's been an advocate out in the forefront for a while now. But she was at first on the movie What Is a Woman, and she was like hiding her face, and they were masking her voice a little bit. I think maybe if people like knew her, they could probably tell who she was. But I didn't stalk her down or anything like that. But she was concerned about her getting about her safety, about her future, about possibly getting her diploma revoked from the school for speaking out. So that's the kind of fear that these girls had back then, to speak up about any of this stuff. And now there's just a complete shift in the culture. Like, we've won so many things on the culture war, and I'm so glad for it. I'm so happy for it. I'm so happy for those girls. I'm so happy for Riley Gaines, and that they did their part. I'm very proud of the Daily Wire and other groups who were very vocal about it, and very vocal in the face of even colleagues who maybe should have taken the same stance, but they were just like, you guys are too mean. Like, Matt Walsh is too mean, and Michael Knowles is too mean, and Ben Shapiro is too mean about this stuff. And why can't you just live and let live? And it's like, well, they clearly don't want to live and let live, and we shouldn't be encouraging things that are contrary to reality and forcing us to keep up appearances. Like, there's a reason why we should push back on it. So I'm glad that they were diligent on that. I was very diligent on that for a while. Actually, that's how I got so many subscribers at first, because I had some Dylan Mulvaney videos that just exploded and went, just super viral. One of the reasons why I was able to get monetized and all that stuff. And I attracted some people who weren't conservative, and there were some people who stuck around and kept listening despite not sharing my views on like abortion and stuff. But people seem to appreciate where I come from and how I explain things. But I'm so glad for the culture shift. But it was I know it was a couple of years ago, but people often forget how life was when they're not in it. It was it was just really, really insane. This is the world. and how people would push back if you didn't just accept that like Leo Thomas was a woman and dudes like him were women. It was really insane, and I'm glad I held the line. If you held the line, good on you. If you got on board, appreciate you. For eventually, getting in tune and aligned with everything. Anyway, I want to start off by talking about this video of this British singer. I don't believe I know who this is, or I'm not associated with her music. And if you guys know her and are aware of her and think I'm crazy for not knowing this person, it is what it is. But Kristen Hawkins had posted this. Kristen Hawkins is the president of Students for Life. And this is just one of the most wicked videos I've seen.
Abortions. I've had a few many.
What, really?
Yeah.
Why didn't this come up in last week's episode where we were just talking about abortions?
I saw it kind of glitched a little bit. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna play back the video. Start over.
Abortions. I've had a few.
Right.
But then again, I can't remember exactly.
Sorry, I saw that I glitched again.
I was just letting you run with it.
Reveal everything.
I can't remember. Yeah, I think maybe like, I want to say 4 or 5.
Yeah, I've had about 5 too. Lily, I'm so happy I can say that and you can say it and no one came to shoot us down.
Okay, so 4 or 5 abortions. Okay. How do you need 4 or 5 abortions, guys? It's interesting to me that pro-lifers will say people are using this as birth control, right? We'll say that, and folks will get so upset, like, no one's using it as birth control. That's crazy. Okay, what we mean by that, and I guess you can't really stop birth from happening, and abortion is, a forced birth. So it's technically, you get me on the technicality. It's technically, well, I guess you control when the birth happens and the circumstance of it. So it's not a prevention of the birth. Okay, so yeah, I guess we could still call it birth control. But what we mean by it, what we mean by it is that usually people have or take birth control because they want to have sex, but they don't want to have kids. Right? But that's why they usually take it. Unless they are taking it to regulate their periods or whatever, they usually take it to stop themselves from having kids, but they still want to engage in the pleasurable stuff. Okay. In this case, you didn't prevent a baby. You still got pregnant, but you still don't want it to be alive. You don't want to take care of it. You don't want to give it up for adoption or whatever. You still want to be able to, have sex, but you don't want there to be a baby. So you go and you have the abortion. So you use it as backup birth control. And if you've had 5, that's wild. And they've both had 5. And they didn't know that before about each other, but it's just like, oh, twinsies. My first thought to this, and believe it or not, some people find this extreme, this should be a jailable offense. Now, you can't retroactively, if you pass a new law, you can't retroactively, at least according to our Constitution, arrest people. And I'm not calling for that if you've had an abortion or whatever, for there to be men who knock on your door and take you away. But if there's a law in place in which, but they just like decriminalized abortion in the UK. If there's a law in place that says you cannot do this, and you go ahead and you do this, I think you should be punished. Now, to me, that sounds like common sense. If we could all agree that abortion is actually murder, premeditated homicide is at least that. But if we did legally call it murder, and someone's like, okay, I'm still going to go and do that, I think it makes sense to be punished if you know that it's illegal. And I'm talking now in a world where we understand it's illegal. Now, there are a lot of pro-life organizations, most of them, I think all major ones, basically, who agree with that stance, actually. They believe that if a woman gets an abortion, even if it was illegal, they get an illegal abortion, they think everybody else should be punished except for the woman who has the abortion. They think that the doctor should be punished, or I guess people who traffic in the pills or whatever. But everyone is guilty of it except for the woman who does it. And I saw Lila Rose on Jubilee, and I thought she did an amazing job for the most part. But there's one woman, she was pressing Lila about what would happen. Like, if you really think it's murder, then what do you want to happen to the women who commit it? If you're, because those were Lila's words. She's saying that it is murder. And Lila was like, well, did you know that you were killing, what you were doing? And the woman's like, yes, I knew what I was doing. The same woman was on the episode with Candace Owens. She had the short hair and she didn't have any kids. And she said she was a hairdresser, where she does hair or whatever. And I think maybe they're talking in the prompt about like the most fulfilling thing that you can be is a mother. And I could see why she might take issue with that. But she did have a child. She just, decided to end their life. I don't know how many times, but she ain't got no living kids. But anyway, she told Lila, like, yes, I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was doing. And Lila is trying to like give them an out, like a moral out, to because in her mind, like, they're just victims of society and how they've been brainwashed to devalue a child. So that's how she's seeing the mothers who make those decisions. Now, I think the issue with that is, don't we all live in the same society? The fathers who, because they'll trash the men all day long. They'll trash the men who pay for the abortions all day long. Oh, here's the money. Go ahead, get that taken care of. Like the ones who coerce the women or whatever, like who don't want to pay like child support for the rest of their lives. They're trash human beings. Like they'll get on them 100%, but they'll bend over backwards to just like, oh, the women, they're just, they just didn't know better. We all live in a part of the same society, including the doctors who are like, I understand that this is a living entity, but this is her body, or at least it's going on in her body. It's affecting her body. And I think she has autonomy in the situation, as and I'm going to go ahead and perform the abortion. Dr. Warren Hearn, who is now retired, but he had a third trimester abortion clinic in Colorado. A third trimester abortion. If you don't know what they do in the third trimester for the abortions, it's a multi-day procedure. You have to prepare you so your cervix and stuff, they can get the baby out. They induce fetal demise while you're preparing to like deliver the dead baby, and then you basically deliver a dead baby. And they said, I think maybe about half of the people who come in there might have some like tragic situations, like a fetal diagnosis that they don't want the child to have to live with or whatever. Some of them fatal, maybe some of them, that could be minor, but maybe they don't want to live with it. But they said just about half. So there's other women who go to that late term clinic, and it's not the super heartbreaking stories that I I guess people will want you to believe, because there's a lot of activists on the pro-choice side who try to say that people only do late term abortions for the most severe circumstances, and it's not true. Like sometimes women find out that they're pregnant late. Maybe the circumstances change. Maybe they didn't have the money for the abortion that they wanted before, and now they do. Or maybe they got a new job offer, or the relationship didn't work out. So, I mean, if the situations for why they decide to get an abortion early in like the first, second trimester, if you find those justified, I don't see why they wouldn't be justifiable later, unless you just think that the baby is less valuable or something, and then you'd have to argue that. But yeah. So I brought up Warren Hearn because Warren Hearn has the ideology that every pregnancy impacts a woman's health. So every abortion is about a woman's health, and if she wants to abort the child, then I'm gonna go ahead and abort the child. So this idea that it's only the mothers who are, I don't know, brainwashed by our society to not value the human life. Like we're all a part of the same society. There are women, a mutual friend of mine on social media. She was once pro-choice. She was atheist too, and now she's a pro. Well, she's been pro-life for a while. She was a pro-choice atheist when I met her. I mean, a pro-life atheist when I met her, and now she's a practicing Catholic. And so I was, I'm not Catholic, but I'm glad that she found the Lord. And but after she got her abortion, and she was I think a minor, and her dad took her to go get the abortion, and she even wrote on her form that she wanted to keep the baby, but Planned Parenthood or wherever didn't care about that. A sale's a sale. They went ahead and had the abortion, and even her parents, they're supposed to be, I guess, have some background of religion, and they're like, oh, God will understand, it's fine, and she asked to see like the sonogram or whatever to hear the heartbeat. They're like, you can't hear anything, there's no heartbeat. And so she decided to cope with what happened to her by being like, okay, I'm gonna work at Planned Parenthood, I'm gonna grow up and I'm gonna do this. And I heard other women who had abortions say that they decided that they were going to go on the path of like, I'm going to make this a career. And then they had some kind of switch. And so in her case, she got pregnant later in life. And so when she heard on sonogram, or so, I guess the ultrasound or whatever, she heard the baby's heartbeat. And it was at the same time that she got the abortion. And she's like, oh my gosh, these people lied to me. They lied to me. My baby had a heartbeat, and they just manipulated me and stuff. So she just decided she was going to become a nightmare of the abortion lobby. So she's a very fierce pro-life, advocate. So there's a lot of people who go on to have careers being abortionists or work in that field who had abortions in the past, but they're also victims of society. So I don't buy Lila's or Kirsten Hawking's sort of narrative surrounding like no culpability for women when they make those decisions. But even so, even if like you wanted to go that, because they say the argument, and actually it was Ben Shapiro who first, because I guess I've always had that inclination. I'm like, yeah, well, if you commit a crime, then yeah, you would go to jail. And I had to be convinced out of that at first. And it was probably Ben Shapiro who did the convincing. Because, well, actually, when Trump said in 2015 or 16, he was asked a question about abortion and like, would you arrest the women? And he said, yeah. And then that was like huge alarm bells for people in the pro-life community and stuff. And so I was working at the Michigan Republican Party at the time. And someone in the office was like so angry, and they're like, this is how he's not really pro-life, because that's not what we want. We don't want to harm women. We just want to save the babies. And I didn't say anything in response, because I'm just like, what he said makes sense to me. Like, is there something wrong with me? Like, what am I not understanding? And so I guess I kind of kept quiet about that for a minute, and then I was kind of searching for an answer. And Ben Shapiro was asked about that, and he said, "Well, a criteria of murder is mens rea, so you have to have like the guilty mind." And he does it. It basically what Lila and them, professes that because of society and so on, women don't actually know that they're killing a baby. Now, the woman who Lila Rose talked to believed that she was absolutely, killing, her child and stuff. And she wouldn't admit, I think, that it was a baby, or walked it back that it was a baby. And then Lila just kind of took that as a win, like, oh, well, you won't admit that was a baby, so you don't actually know what you were doing. But they do know that once the process starts in 9 months, what they believe is a baby is going to pop up. Like, it's the same human entity, and they want to stop that. And many women who've had abortions have had pregnancies in the past. So and carried full term pregnancies. So they know the process. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And then there is premeditation involved. It is a decision that you make. And the intention is for them not to be alive. So I don't buy the not guilty mind stuff that, I hear some of these pro-life people say. But you'll hear Charlie Kirk say that, well, if you press that, or if you push that you're going to jail women, then you're not going to be able to pass anything, and that freaks people out, and it's too radical. And I don't understand why that's the case. Because again, if you can even convince people that it is murder, to me it doesn't make sense to be like, well, it's murder, but it's something you should be immune from, though. To me, it doesn't make sense that you would charge the abortion doctor, but not the woman who went in to get it paid and done and wanted it done. No, there's like coercion, like she's forced in there or something like that. That's different. But talking about like mutual, like, I made this decision. There's even like laws, and they're trying to repeal this stuff across the country, but there's consent laws where you have, like, if you get, I don't know if they did actually change this, because they changed a lot of stuff after Prop 3 passed in Michigan. But before, like, if you wanted to have an abortion, there was like a wait period, and you had to go on the website of a certain website, and you had to read through like the development of where your child was at, and like read about the procedure. Now, maybe some people are just clicking through that real quick and don't want to know that information, but it is out there. So but to let's say the abortionist is a woman. Like, you would jail her for killing someone else's baby, but you wouldn't jail her for killing her own baby. So to me, a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense. But 5 abortions, guys, come on. 5 abortions. I didn't mean to go into a huge rant about this, but 5 abortions. 5 abortions. That sounds like a lot to me. Like, if you have like a medical situation and you're married, and if you have a baby, it will like genuinely kill you or something. Like, I'm like for health exceptions or whatever, but we could debate about whether they're necessary at all in the first place. But I just grant the exception or whatever. But but if it's a healthy baby, healthy pregnancy, like, I think if they both can live, they both should live. And that doesn't sound crazy to me. And I haven't heard any, like, I'm not trying to be just too charitable to my position. I really haven't heard good reasons as to why that isn't the correct take. That if they both can live healthy pregnancy, healthy mom, healthy baby, why is the 9 months too much of a burden? Especially since, like, according to the Turnaway study, 96% of women who are turned away from abortion, like, they were going to get one, and they're like, no, for whatever reason, they're turned away from it. They don't regret not having the abortion. So if we could stop women from doing it, a lot of people would just actually have their kids, raise their kids, and love their kids. Like 96% of them. And then people would also be more careful about their mating habits. They'd be more careful about their sexual partners as well. So yeah, I need a I haven't heard good explanations. Oh, you said the world really missed a bullet on her not reproducing though. Wait, do you mean like 5 abortions shouldn't produce? Change my mind. I hear that a lot, and well, there's many ways. um if you're gonna have 5 abortions, like, why not get your tubes tied? I guess. And are all the times these happened, are the guys wrapped up? And I know there's a lot of guys who don't want to be wrapped up. I don't understand that. I don't understand that if you don't want to get pregnant, you don't want her to get pregnant. Even if she's on birth control, I mean, everything can fail. But I just don't understand like the precautions like not being there. Now, when you have abortion readily available and someone just like has a I don't know, a punch card at this point, maybe they don't care about being careful. I think kids there's obviously really bad parents in this world. I had a friend of mine who just had a baby, and she said like having a child, loving my child, and them being so easy to love just makes her so upset that there's so many bad parents in the world. Now, there's a lot of people who I don't know, they don't latch on to parenthood as easy as other people, or connect with their baby as easy as other people, but not having a connection versus you being like abusive or neglectful or aren't the same. So there's some people who definitely shouldn't be parents, and technically you don't have to raise the child, but if you don't want one, you shouldn't make one. You shouldn't make one. But once one exists, they do exist. They do exist. So she's got a body count of 5, and I don't mean how many dudes she slept with. I'm sure that's much higher, but there's a body count of like at least 5 babies. But she doesn't know. She says she lost count. She says she lost count. That's insane to me. 5 abortions. If you're coming in late, you don't know who I'm talking about. It's a singer, Lily Allen. And I don't know who that is, man. I mean, I don't follow British music like that. You got to be like, I don't know, Adele for me to know who you are. If you're from across the pond, you're like, your music's got to be like that good. I first heard Adele, and I'm just like, I thought she was a black woman. She just I was like, a white British lady. But yeah, I don't think I know who Lily Allen is. But 5 abortions, it's wild. It's wild. That's wild. Like I think that babies should be protected at the moment of conception, but a lot of people don't believe it should be past 15 in the United States. And a lot of countries don't have it past like as far out as some of our states do. So let's say it's like middle of the road. If we were all like 15 weeks, that's too far. That's far enough, or whatever. No more abortions past that. And people were sneaking out, and they're like, okay, this baby's 21 weeks. I'm gonna go get a secret abortion. Like, would that be so crazy to be like, okay, you did an illegal thing. You knew it was a legal thing. You literally did like a backdoor alley abortion thing. Like, you killed your baby, and you did an illegal thing. You're going to jail. Like in Michigan, and I mentioned this before. We changed the law like last year, or it went into effect, I think last year. That you cannot hold your phone and drive. Like, it's not just a texting thing. Like you can't have your phone. It's like totally hands-free, situation. So I got caught holding my phone. I wasn't texting or whatever, but I got pulled over and I got a ticket, and I had to pay the ticket. I couldn't feign ignorance or be like, well, societally in Michigan for a long time, we were able to hold our phones. Even like if you're holding your phone for a call, like you're not supposed to do that. It's supposed to be like totally hands-free. And the cop didn't care. He just gave me a ticket. Like the law has changed. Here's a ticket. You violated the law. So, I mean, no one's going to jail for something like that, but I think murder is more severe. But my point is, people put new laws into place and you have to obey the law. Oh, this is a nice story. Yes, I had my oldest son when I was 16 in the 1980s. Had people telling me that he wasn't human, telling me to abort. I was to be ruined. My son is now celebrated photographer and filmmaker. That is really nice. And you know what? I saw it's funny that you said that when you were 16. I did a video on TikTok, and someone in the comments was like, why should a girl when she's 16 years old have to have her life ruined and all this stuff, etc., blah blah blah? Why shouldn't she be able to do this and have an abortion, and you want to ruin her, etc.? And then someone replied in the comments, just that was basically like shut up. I was 16. I had my child. They're amazing. We had a great life. And you could do it. Like, well, another time I was talking to somebody, I'm like, women, like girls that age used to be queens of nations, you know? And there are resources, and maybe you'll fall behind a little bit and where in your life has to change, your plans have to change a bit, but that doesn't mean your whole life is derailed. It just evolves into something else, just like kids do all the time. If you're a new married couple and you got your life together and all of a sudden you're like, oh shoot, I wasn't planning this for like 3 years later. Just because you're 25 or something doesn't mean that everything or 20 or 30, like if you weren't planning for it and it happens, it just is what it is. But you restructure your life because it's worth doing. It's worth doing. And maybe you don't see that at first, but you will. And according to the Turnaway study, again, 96% of women who turn away from abortion don't regret not aborting their children. Yeah, Steve Jobs was adopted. He was adopted. There's a lot of great stories out there. Yeah, you don't have to raise your kids if you don't want to. But I've heard people say they don't want to wonder about some kid who's out there, and I guess they'd rather have the finality of just offing them. Anyway, we're supposed to be talking about the big beautiful bill. We've been talking about this for 38 minutes, but it's okay. You guys know I'm pretty passionate about this topic. 5 abortions. I just can't. I just can't. That's a lot, bro. Okay. I want to show you guys this TikTok. From this is Cam Higby. If you don't, he's been like, I don't know how many counts Cam has had. This first person that's going to pop up is Dean, but Cam is going to respond to him. Dean has a huge following, millions of followers on TikTok. He goes live all the time. He's invited on different podcasts, and he's been on Jubilee and other stuff. And Cam is, on the right. Cam has had I think about 1 million followers before, but if you have a big account on TikTok and you're on the right, eventually you're probably going to get taken down at some point in time. My account, and I've been on for a couple years, I'm at 130,000, maybe 136,000 followers or whatever. I did lose my account at one point in time. People had mass reported some stuff. I was able to get it back. So I have 3 accounts, and I lost 2 of them before, but they both came back. And I don't know, maybe it'd be gone totally if TikTok didn't usually suppress me. They suppress a lot of my videos. Every so often I might have one video or 2 videos that will break through the veil. But I posted a couple videos yesterday. I just got a couple 100 views on some stuff. And again, I have 100,000 followers. So if you are a right-wing creator, they will eventually take your stuff down. If they can. So Cam's had his stuff down before. Cam's had his stuff down. AJ Rant's Room is in the chat. He knows about TikTok suppressing for sure. Our mutuals on TikTok. So yeah, he's aware. So anyway, when I see Dean, I can't help but think about one video he had where he was trying to talk about evil things that God had commanded the people of God to do, and the Israelites and stuff. And he said he was like reading stuff out of, he's like, this stuff is mentioned in Ephesians, I think he said Ephesians 21. And he got like ragged on TikTok. I never end up doing a reply to it because, I mean, by the time like I saw it, there were so many different replies, and I wouldn't have a fresh take anyway. But everyone's like, if you know your Bible, you're probably like, Ephesians 21, that doesn't make any sense. There's only like 6 chapters. So he got just thrashed for that. It was so funny. So I think I might reply to his video because he doesn't have any sources in his original video, and I'm showing you the reply. I'm not showing you the original, but I think I'll say now. Cam is saying that Dean doesn't have any sources in his video, but the sources are in Ephesians 21. He's, by the way, this kid Dean has been chasing down Charlie Kirk, trying to get him to debate him. They did it like a tour following Charlie Kirk's tour, and apparently they're supposed to have a debate together. I hope to God, I pray to God that if he actually sits down with Charlie Kirk and they have a debate, which he's just clout chasing after, Charlie or whatever. But if they do have a debate, I pray that Charlie Kirk brings up Ephesians 21. It's so funny. But anyway, here we go.
You should watch this video because it'll impact the rest of your life.
Oh boy, you've all seen Dean's video on the Big Beautiful Bill. And notice how he didn't provide a single source or cite the bill even once. I'm now going to systematically eviscerate everything he said. Make sure to send this to a low information liberal friend who believed it. Let's get into it.
This bill intends to revoke the Pell Grant for around 2/3 of recipients.
No, the bill does not revoke the Pell Grant for 2/3 of recipients. Instead, what it does is cut waste and tighten guidelines. First of all, this bill takes the Pell Grant away from students who have enough outside non-federal grants or scholarships to cover the full cost of their attendance. If their college is already fully paid for, why would you give them the Pell Grant? That's just free money for no real reason. It disqualifies people who are less than half-time students, which would mean that you're taking less than 6 credits per semester. And finally, it removes students whose student aid index is more than double the maximum Pell Award. The House version also included a measure to increase the full-time student requirement from 24 credits per year to 30 credits per year, but it was removed in the Senate bill. The House bill ultimately expected to disqualify only 10% of Pell recipients, according to the Congressional Budget Office. A little over half were expected to see reductions in the size of their awards based on the level of aid that they were otherwise receiving. The Senate bill is much more mild and expected to see an even smaller impact. Now, Dean's talking point comes from an American Progress article, which unfortunately he didn't read past the headline. He evidently also didn't read the bill that he made this video about.
It also plans to completely eliminate student aid for graduate students.
So this is just a complete lie. What this bill actually does is cap borrowing for graduate students at $20,500 per year and $100,000 per lifetime. For professional programs like law and medicine, it caps the borrowing at $50,000 annually and $200,000 for life. Graduate students are also still fully eligible for grants from the federal government as well as grants from federal agencies like the NIH.
Defunding hospitals in rural areas in this country. Because of this, 340 hospitals in these rural areas are expected to be at a risk of closure.
Another blatant lie. There is no provision in this bill that defunds rural hospitals. Some are concerned that tightening Medicaid will result in reduced revenue for rural hospitals, but this bill focuses specifically on things like ensuring that deceased people are scrubbed from Medicaid, reevaluating recipients' eligibility yearly. Why weren't we always doing that? Preventing Medicaid from being used to pay for child transition surgery. It prevents federal dollars from being spent on abortion and gives the states more control over how Medicaid is run in their states, taking that power from the federal government. I'll do a whole video on how this bill relates to healthcare because it's very nitty-gritty, but this was an outright lie.
It's also expected to cut food benefits by 30%.
No, the bill does not cut food benefits by 30%. Dean is talking about SNAP. Actually, I don't think he knows what he's talking about. But anyway, the current requirement for SNAP is that people aged 16 to 56 work 20 hours a week or 80 hours a month to receive benefits. This was just expanded to people aged 64. It also requires that states share in the cost of SNAP benefits with the federal government. So there you have it, all of Dean's primary concerns with the big beautiful bill in the video that he purportedly put loads of time and effort into, which is shocking considering he failed to provide a single source or cite the bill even once, are all either lies or half-truths with justified measures behind them. Send this to an overreactive liberal who bought into these lies, and make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and comment what you think of this bill down below.
So anyway, Cam does good stuff. You know, he takes time doing a lot of research on the topics that he covers, and also has done some investigative reporting on like different riots and occupation stuff, like at the the Columbia demonstrations and things like that. And so he's putting himself on the line, and actually has been like pepper sprayed and hurt and other things like that. So kudos to him. Appreciate what he does, and he's worth a follow for sure. Again, Dean has a very large platform, and I'm probably going to do the Ephesians 21 response to Dean there. But yeah, there's a lot of people really like a huge thing that you see the Democrats talking about are all the cuts to Medicaid. And I've seen some people like talk about the SNAP benefits, but why shouldn't there be some like work requirements? Like, what is your issue, and why should people who shouldn't be here in this country be like getting funds when we are strapped for cash? It's bad enough that we spend so much money. I'm not crazy about us spending all the kinds of money that are going on in these bills. When Elon said a bill can either be big or it can be beautiful, it cannot be both. I feel that. I do. I understand politically why they are putting so much into this bill, because they don't apparently feel like Trump has enough political capital, especially with the majorities being so slim, that they could get a border bill plus a tax cuts bill and other things, done. So they're trying to put everything in one bill to get that done. And so in order to get things done, you have to make a lot of compromises with people who want who have different legislative agendas. So that's why it's just redonkulous. But there's a lot of lies that are coming from the left. And if they don't pass something, especially with the tax cuts, our taxes will go up. And contrary to what the media and the Democrats were trying to tell people before, a lot of people did get tax cuts in the past. So if we do not get the tax cuts, we are probably going to see some negative effects in the markets and on the economy as a whole. So I definitely want them to get that done. I want more funding for the border and other things like that, though the Trump administration is killing it. as far as protecting the border. And I'll get to that, but let me play this clip for you guys. Representative Andy Harris was asked about the big beautiful bill and was just letting people know that they need to get a job. And I don't disagree with that.
Be a big thing. This is what all the left media is talking about. Can you just clarify and confirm? Because some people are questioning, if will people get their Medicaid, will it go away?
Well, look, if you're on traditional Medicaid, you're disabled, you're elderly, you're pregnant, able-bodied without dependents, and you choose not to work, well, you shouldn't be on a public welfare program. That's the bottom line. If you're one of the 1.4 million illegal immigrants who are here, who are on Medicaid, you shouldn't be getting it. The bottom line is these are all counted in the CBO estimates. Again, you're an able-bodied person. You choose not to work, should be off hold. Yes, you will lose Medicaid coverage. Get a job and get coverage through a job if necessary, or sign up for Obamacare. You still have Obamacare as a backdrop for a lot of these individuals. So again, these numbers are highly inflated. No one who the core Medicaid program was designed for, that is the disabled, the elderly, pregnant women, children, none of them are going to lose their coverage under any of these plans.
Nope. And if you do, it's because you didn't deserve to have it in the first place.
Go get a job. That's what the message is. I do want to mention some of these border numbers. So Bill Mulligan, and I've told you guys should follow him. He reports a lot about the border. The Border Patrol Border Patrol encounters of illegal aliens at the southern border during the month of June. So in June 2024, the numbers were 130,415. So in June 2023, the number was 144,556. In June 2022, the number was 207,834. So the numbers did go down after 2022, quite a bit, down to 2024. And, eventually we know the Democrats saw that Americans wanted their border protected. So they started acting a little bit better, like they had some sense with the border, but of course they weren't doing all that they could do. And so here's the June number, right? Just for a reminder, in 2022, the numbers were 207,834. And in 2024, just last year, the number was 130,000 and some change. Okay. The new number is 6,070. The new number is 6,070. Now, it's just think about last year, at this point in time, last year, Biden had just failed at the debate, and Democrats were panicking and started to run some stories about Biden not doing too hot or whatever, not in his performance, but like his mental capacity or whatever, because in his age, because they wanted to force him out. But there's all these conversations about, oh, well, Trump says he cares about the border, but he killed the border bill. He killed the border bill that went on, and he can't actually really care about this stuff because he called up the Republicans and told them to kill the bill. And then you get other Republicans will be like, okay, but they wanted to basically signify like catch and release and fund a lot of these folks who want to help these people come into the country. It's more about like ushering them into the country faster than making sure they don't come here in the first place. And so it wasn't a good bill, but Trump and other people are just like, there's laws on the books. You could just enforce the laws. And what we really need, apparently, is just a new president. So we have a new president who hasn't, done anything, I think, other than some like EOs. But it's made all the difference in the world. People would cross the border and say, I'm here because of Joe Biden. That's what people would say. Crossing the border. And then they would say, hey, I'm crossing with some people who are really sketchy. And y'all need to check these people better. That's what they would say. So kudos to the Trump administration. I know these judges are constantly trying to stop him, from doing his job, from deporting these people who shouldn't be here. And by the way, a lot of these folks already have had deportation orders from the Biden administration, but they just didn't execute it or do it or whatever. So kudos to them, but disincentivizing bad behavior does help to curb how many folks are coming here in the first place, because they know it's not open season on America when Donald Trump is in the office. And I've had many complaints about this man, but he's been on about this border stuff. I mean, he was flaky at one point in time in his first, administration, and he kind of pitched amnesty, and he kind of like, they were talking about that a little bit this time around. I hope, I want that Tom Homan like energy. Like, we're gonna catch you. You're out of here. That's what I want, and they need to keep at it. If he gets soft, then you'll probably see these numbers pop up. But I'm glad. But that's a huge difference, guys. That is a significant difference indeed. So I was going to cover this Ben and Jerry's story, but we're kind of getting there over on time. So I'm going to table that if you don't mind. But there was a company that cut off millions of funding to Ben and Jerry's charity over donations that were sent to a pro-Palestinian group. So Unilever is reportedly cutting off millions of dollars in funding to Ben & Jerry's charitable foundation after it refused to provide audit documents about donations to pro-Palestinian groups, escalating an internal dispute between a corporate parent and its left-leaning subsidiary. So Ben & Jerry's is so wild to me. They make good ice cream though. It's just terrible that the guys who run it are just leftist nut jobs who are, socialist. I'm like, how are you going to charge so much for ice cream? You clearly love capitalism. Because the ice cream is not cheap. They come in like a pint or whatever. So they're like individual for a person. You don't have to eat them in one sitting, guys. But they are there's some good. Like there's cinnamon bun ice cream. I haven't had it in a long time. It's really good. It's really, really good. If I want chocolate or something else like that, I could just get like Meyer brand ice cream. Meyer's has some really good Moose Tracks Denali ice cream. Is really good. Is Meyer's everywhere? Is that just a Michigan thing, or is that Kroger? One of them is like just Michigan, I think. But the Purple Cow ice cream, they got some really good ice cream. So I don't need to do the Ben & Jerry stuff, but I'm not surprised. It just drives me wild that they're like straight up Bernie folks, and so for all of these left-wing causes, and they're like avowed socialists. They don't like capitalism, but they do run their company. They do have expensive ice cream. So anyway, that's what I will table the conversation today. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you'd like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the site, because this costs a stream, run my site, all the good stuff, so you guys can support. I very much appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that's available on the site. Got different t-shirts and like my pro-choice men are sus shirts. I got different mugs that you guys can check out. You know, fall is fast approaching, so you might want to get that pumpkin spice season, you know, Trump mug so you're ready when the pumpkins start coming out. So that one's available. And of course, we have, you know, t-shirts and stuff. You guys can also check out some of my books that I have 18 altogether. If you check the link in the description, there's a link that'll take you to an Amazon page where you guys can see some of my stuff. If you go to the merchandise page on my website, there's also a link that'll take you to my book website, ninjadustpublishing.com. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I'm gonna take the 4th off. I hope you guys have an amazing 4th of July. Be safe out there. I had heard that people were gonna try to do another King's Day protest, but I guess that kind of maybe fell flat. I don't know. Maybe people protest or not protest, but go enjoy America. It's a great country to be here. God bless you, and I'll see you on Monday.